Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome an accomplished professional who has given her life to ADHD from Auckland, New Zealand, Skye Waterson. Skye, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thank you. Skye is the founder of Unconventional Organization, which is an ADHD or attention deficit hyperactivity disorder support service helping entrepreneurs and executives stay focused, build consistent revenue, and grow. Skye has also written over 50 articles reaching over 250,000 readers worldwide. So, Skye, a few questions for you before we come to Unconventional Organization. Tell me about your journey and how did your diagnosis change the way you approached productivity and success?
Yeah, well, I mean, growing up, I definitely there was some indications, but I didn't, get an ADHD diagnosis. It wasn't that common at the time, especially in
Mhm.
girls. And so really for me, it was just working extra hard, kind of covering over the cracks. But that led to a lot of burnout, a lot of frustration.
Mhm.
And it was really when I started my PhD that I decided I needed to figure out what was going on.
Mhm.
And I found out, to my surprise, that it was ADHD,
Mhm.
which allowed me to start actually researching systems that would work for my brain.
Mhm. Okay. And what inspired you to turn your personal journey into a professional mission?
That's a good question. I mean, I think I was so passionate about teaching it, and I had been an educator for years prior as an academic,
Hmm.
that I ended up just wanting to share a lot of the strategies that had
Mhm.
helped me so much.
Hmm.
And when COVID hit and we all had to go home, that was when I found ADHD coaching and realized that that was a platform to share the
Hmm.
strategies that I had been learning about
Hmm.
myself.
Hmm. And for my viewers and listeners who may not be very familiar with ADHD, could you just tell me what are some of the signs to watch out for?
Yes, so there's two different things. You can be primarily inattentive, primarily hyperactive, or combined type. I'm combined. So getting distracted, struggling to remember things you've just been told, struggling to stay in one place, feeling like you're driven by a motor. These
Hmm.
are all different ways that you might experience ADHD symptoms.
Hmm. Hmm. And for you, what personal habits or systems were the most difficult and the most rewarding?
I think for me at the time, obviously writing a lot,
Hmm.
academic theses are not the most fun, in terms of writing, even for the people who love it. And so it was a lot of the step into focus routine, the prioritization filter. Those are the things that I teach the most, I would say. And they really came out of me trying to figure out how I was going to stay focused and how I
Hmm.
was going to keep going and keep working on the projects that I was doing at university and then later on in my own business.
Amazing. Let's now talk about unconventional organization. What was your vision when you started Unconventional Organization? And how did you manage to grow your community to over 80,000 engaged professionals?
It was really about, for me, wanting a space to share with
Hmm.
people who identified their brain as different the way that I did. I
Hmm.
wanted to share with people. I knew that there wasn't a lot of strategies out there for people who were professionals, and now I work almost exclusively with business owners, so with business owners as well.
Hmm.
And so I wanted an opportunity to share those strategies. And it really grew very organically. I was posting articles, as you mentioned at the beginning, on the internet, putting them on Facebook groups to see what people would say. And
Hmm.
people would read them and really like it and want to
Hmm.
work with me. And we grew from there.
Hmm. And based on all the work that you've done, what are some of the common challenges you see ADHD entrepreneurs face?
I think one of the biggest challenges is a lack of momentum on the things they know are going to grow their business.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times people can get swept away in the day-to-day tasks.
Mm-hmm.
They can feel like everything is on fire. They can lack an ability to prioritize or delegate.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result, they can find themselves failing to do the things they know are actually going to grow the business.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result, kind of spinning their wheels or even losing the business as a
Mm-hmm.
result.
And can you give me an example without any names, of course?
Yeah, I mean, I recently worked with a client who's, been in a position where every month is up and down, they get opportunities, but then not setting up the systems to activate those
Mm-hmm.
opportunities, to act on them effectively, to do it consistently. And
Mm-hmm.
so he said the other day, he said, I make more money on holiday than I do when I'm at work because
Mm-hmm.
whenever he gets in, he's not actually doing the thing that needs to grow. And even then, it's not growing the way he wants it to. And so we were able to come in and build a system behind what he was doing. And it was simple things like he needed an office.
Mm-hmm.
He needed an office to be able to work in. He couldn't keep working from his car. It wasn't sustainable. He was never working on those, admin tasks that needed to get done. We got him an assistant. We set him up so that he could actually use that person to get his time back in an effective way.
Mm-hmm.
These little shifts have allowed him to feel much more confident
Mm-hmm.
and start to build traction.
Amazing. And how do you help clients shift from chaos to clarity without overwhelming them?
That is a good question because that's a huge part of what we do.
Mm-hmm.
We have three main areas. We start by helping people to focus. So helping people to actually understand what the next lever they need to pull is and actually how to find time to do that in
Mm-hmm.
the middle of everything. Then we help them to get their time back,
Mm-hmm.
how to actually do tasks that are boring in about 15 minutes. This is called the step into focus routine. How to delegate, how to hire in a way that isn't overly complicated and you can do it multiple times,
Mm-hmm.
how to see what's going on in your business. And then once you've got those pieces moving, how to create that consistent revenue.
Mm-hmm. And my next question, Sky, is what role does content creation and writing play as you have established your own credibility?
Massively,
Mm-hmm.
massively. I think every single person who's come to work with me has come because they've valued something that I've written. Someone else has valued something that I've written. I've written articles on Substack that have gone viral, and I've written,
Mm-hmm.
I've just published my 100th episode of our ADHD Skills Lab podcast. So all of the time, being able to share strategies, being able to talk to other people has
Mm-hmm.
been invaluable for me.
Mm-hmm. My next question is how do you help high performing professionals build structure without feeling boxed in?
Yeah, it's a good question. We call it flexible structure.
Mm-hmm.
So we talk about building a system that is going to support you on a standard day, which,
Mm-hmm.
very rarely happens, but, on a day when you have to squish things down, when you have to be really focused and you don't
Mm-hmm.
have a lot of time, and on those stretch days, those breaks, those holidays, so you don't absolutely lose the habit. So when we're building anything with you, we'll build it to flex in that way and
Mm-hmm.
test it to make sure that it does that for you. So you never have to feel like your life is just on a train and you've got no control over it.
Mm-hmm. Give me an example.
A great example is morning routines. Often
Mm-hmm.
people will ask for help with morning routines. And
Mm-hmm.
so we'll talk about, okay, this is what your standard morning is going to look like. We want to add some dopamine to help you get up. We want to add some movement to help your support your working memory, a couple of things like that that support ADHD. Then let's do the simplest version where you just, do a quick exercise, grab something and go.
Mm-hmm.
For those really busy mornings when you wake up late, we'll have your standard, and then we'll have your kind of weekend holiday version where maybe you go for a really nice walk and you make breakfast. Those three, having them locked in, you're not thinking, what am I going to do today? How am I going to manage this? And you can still feel your sense of consistency
Mm-hmm.
even as your days shift and change.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. Sky, what role does neuroscience or psychology play in your methodology?
Quite a lot, actually. I'm a really huge nerd when it comes to neuroscience. I studied it into postgrad at university, and I really love learning about how the brain works because
Mm,
it just gives you so much confidence to understand that these shifts and how, the strategies that I'm teaching are not just coming from tips and tricks. It's actually showing what's going on in the brain. So I have a on my podcast we regularly release episodes of the research recap
hmm
where we'll go through academic journal articles. We make it fun
Yeah.
and we'll break down what's been going on. Things like, transcranial magnetic stimulation and things like that.
Mm. But tell me a little bit about your podcast and one such episode where you've broken all this down. For
Yeah, yeah. Well, a recent episode, I think it's coming out, is we looked at just the way that the brain like they do brain measurements to see how we measure time.
hmm
And there seems to be a difference in how we even perceive time with ADHD.
mm
There's some research to suggest we sense time going a little bit faster. They did a bunch of different tests on kids and they did notice that it was having an effect on their
mm
overall benefits. So those kinds of studies really allow me to just get those little nuggets that form the seeds of what eventually become the strategies that I teach.
mm. Thank you. And how do you address emotional regulation and burnout when it comes to your coaching?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, emotional dysregulation is a big factor when it comes to ADHD. It's a growing understanding that it is a factor. We definitely identify it. I always say to my clients, first of all, let's build you some systems to give you more time and help you
Mm.
focus, and let's see what that does, because often
hmm
that will reduce a lot of stress and anxiety. But I'm very open as well to supporting people to refer on to therapists to help them understand it, and also just a general, conversation, especially with business owners about,
mm
hey, rejection sensitivity is going to hit you really hard.
mm
You might struggle with this more, and kind of giving people strategies to support themselves during that
mm.
time.
And what does sustainable scaling look like for an ADHD entrepreneur?
It looks interesting. Number one thing I would say is when you are growing your business and you have
mm
ADHD, you
mm
get a lot of dopamine. So a lot of when we talk about ADHD, we talk about struggles with regulating dopamine. You get a lot of dopamine from your business, that first sale, that struggle that you worked through. Once your business starts working and it actually is running sustainably,
mm
it's time for you to go and find something else. You're still going to be working in your business, but you need
hmm
to find a source of dopamine that's outside of it. Some
mm
people will take up like really intensive hobbies. Some people will get into other projects. We don't want you to start a new business. That would be a distraction, but we do want you to do something fun. So that would be, I think, the number one thing that people don't always get when
mm
it comes to what it looks like to build a sustainable business and have an ADHD brain.
Great response. Sky, what is your process for developing and testing new ADHD strategies?
Oh, I love this question. Okay, so I have a process. I read journal articles as part
hmm
of going. I post that publicly on the internet because I
hmm
find it great for accountability because I have ADHD too.
Yeah.
And then once I've done that, what I will do is that often provides the seeds of an idea,
mm
and a struggle that some people, I have a few one-on-one clients that I work with to kind of help me with this process.
hmm
They'll usually come to me, they'll have a struggle in their business, and I'll put those pieces together and say, okay, well, based on the academic research, this is a solution that might work for you. We'll test it, we'll workshop it, I'll work on it with a couple of other people, and then I'll usually introduce it to my community. So we'll
mm
work on it with the community, make sure it's working for them. And then at that point, I'll usually write an article or something to really illuminate the
mm
strategy, why it's working, what the research is behind it. And that's usually where you'll see
mm
the pieces that I release to the public.
Thank you. Three more questions for you. What leadership lessons have been shaped by your neurodivergence?
Mm. If somebody doesn't appreciate the way that you work,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's just not a fit.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the leadership lessons, that we're all different and you want to work with people who are different. We've got
Mm-hmm.
such important differences, all of us. But if you have somebody who's going to roll your eyes every time you don't do it the way that they do it,
Mm-hmm.
it's probably not going to be a good fit for you as a leader.
Mm-hmm. And have you had to adapt your own strategies as your business has grown?
Yeah, I would say I've had to level them up. And that's something I'm really passionate about teaching other people to do as well.
Mm-hmm.
The idea of organizing yourself, focusing yourself, having a system for prioritizing and working on your own tasks is great. But
Mm-hmm.
when you're running a business, you need to lead a team, you need to delegate. These are things that we don't get taught about when it comes to
Mm-hmm.
ADHD strategies.
And my last question for you, uh, can you share an example of a simple ADHD-friendly system that has transformed one of your clients' lives?
Yes, I can. In fact, if you want the system, you can just DM me at Unconventional Organization on
Yeah.
Instagram. Just message me brand and I'll give it to you. But essentially, this is the 2-minute focus formula. So, what I ask people to do when they're feeling overwhelmed, they don't know where to start, is to get a piece of paper or a document and just write down all of their tasks, whether it's
Mm,
home, work, everything. Just
mm,
brain dump it. And then from there, to go through that list and say, okay, what is truly urgent? What has to be done in the next 24 hours, or there will be a significant external negative consequence?
mm,
If it doesn't fit that criteria, as in you'd still be doing it if you were in a waiting room and your day had gone sideways, you'd still be messaging, sorry, I can't make it,
mm,
or trying to pay that bill.
mhm,
It's not truly urgent. I've
mm,
worked with this with so many business owners. Nobody gets more than 5 in a day.
mm. Amazing. And on that note, Sky, I just want to say what an amazing conversation this has been for me, and I'm sure for my viewers and listeners. I've always known about ADHD, but talking to you today has given me a much, much better understanding of
Hmm.
how you are supporting so many different challenges a lot of ADHD people face. Thank you for speaking to me, and good luck to you.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.